Hi there, my viewer. I hope that you are fine wherever you are. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Mary. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for keeping here. I'd like to say welcome home. So this time, there's something that I have prepared that I want us to talk about. We have an aspect in education that is called differentiated learning, or if you want, differentiated instruction. And this is very important. And how I wish that every parent would have this at the back of their mind so that they know the type of children that they have. And once you understand differentiated instruction, it becomes very easy for you to handle your children and to know how best to help them. So I have my notes here that I'm going to use just as a point of reference so that we all understand what differentiated learning is. Differentiated learning or differentiated instruction is something that has not been like 100% been put into practice in our Kenyan system. But if you would research in other countries, you're going to realize that this is something that is very common. So what is differentiated instruction? So differentiated instruction is a mode of learning that has been structured to cater for the needs of every child in a class. Like for example, let's assume that a class has around 20 students. So you'll find that an instructor or a facilitator in such a class is going to understand how to handle each student. And this is where we miss out in Kenya. Like if I'm teaching a class of 70, most of the time as a teacher, I'll tend to handle them the same way without bearing in mind that this is a different group and every child is unique. So if you understand differentiated instruction, you will know how best to mold your child. You'll know how best to support them. So as I had said, differentiated instruction is all about a design or a structure where every child different ability is catered for. Like for example, in a class, we have learners that have different abilities. In a previous video, I talked about you not judging your child or comparing your child to another child in their class. And the reason why I did that video was to make us understand that each child is unique. And because they are unique, then there is a unique way in which they're supposed to be handled. So please stick up to the end of the video so that you get to understand the concept of differentiated instruction. So what do we need to know? We need to know that every learner has a different learning ability. And that is why all learners in a class are not the same. That is why your child is unique in his or her different way. So if you understand that, then you are not going to compare your child. As much as probably you may want your child to be the best, to do those courses or to go into those professions that we think that they are the best. Once you understand that every learner is unique and they have different abilities, you will support your child the way they are. You will understand how to handle child A to child B. And we can all agree, even in a family, all people are not the same. Imagine a family that has 7 siblings, like the family that I come from. We are 7. And if I was to tell you about my 6 siblings, you're going to realize that we are not the same. We all have different abilities. And the same way in the family that you come from, the same way you have different abilities, is the same way in a classroom setup. Children comes in with their different abilities. So I hope you get that clear, that the first thing that we should understand, even before we dig deeper into differentiated instruction, is that each child has different ability. So that is point number 1. So point number 2, we have also something that is quite interesting, and that is the level of concentration. Our levels of concentration cannot be the same. Imagine attending a class that runs for 1 hour or 40 minutes. Have you ever asked yourself how much can your child be attentive in such a class? Like how long can they concentrate? What is their concentration span? And you're going to realize that if you really ask yourself these questions and you look at it from a critical point of view, you'll understand that these children are very different. There are those that have a low concentration span, maybe for 2 minutes and they switch off, or maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and all that. So please, parents, understand how your child, or the ability of your child when it comes to concentration. These are simple things that you can do at home. You can practice with them. Like, for example, you can tell them over a weekend or over a holiday, you want them to do an assignment. Just give them an assignment and observe. And through observation, you will understand how best your child can concentrate. And it will shock you that some children in your own home will have a long concentration span, and they will sit down, they'll do their assignment. But there are those who can't concentrate, and they come from the same mother, from the same father. What about a class? A classroom that has children from different places, different backgrounds and such. How much do you think a teacher can handle? So please, let us think about the concentration span. And then the third thing, which is very, very important, the mode of learning. So once you've understood the ability of your child, you have checked on their concentration span, ask yourself the third question that is very important. Which is the best mode of learning for each child? And this is a structure that you can also practice at home. Like child A, what kind of mode of learning can suit them? And you'll realize that even in a classroom setup, that children have different ways of learning. And because they have different ways of learning, then the message or the intended concept will get into their head through the best mode of learning. If a teacher uses the wrong mode of learning, then communication will not be there. And that is why you'll wonder, why is it that my child is not performing? Why is it that child A is getting an A, my child is getting an E? What could be the problem? And the problem is this child is not being taught using the right mode of learning. So what do I mean by the best mode of learning? There are 3 mode of learning, or 4, that you should be aware of. So there are some children that like hands-on activities, and these mostly are children that have a low concentration span. These are children that cannot sit still for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They need something to do with their hands. They need to move from point A to point B so that they keep on concentrating and internalizing the message that is intended for them. So identify the best mode of learning for your child. Do they need a hands-on activity, or are they visual? That is the second mode of learning. Are they visual? There are those learners that cannot understand a concept without them visualizing. Do they need books that have pictures? Do they need, teaching aids or charts that are placed on walls? Do they need to see something so that it goes into their memory? If you get that and understand it as a teacher or as a parent who wants to support their child through their education, it's going to be very helpful. You can imagine a child who is visual, and you give her or him a book. Let's say, like, for example, a novel that has 300 pages. And in these 300 pages, there are no pictures. This child is going to lose concentration because that is not what attracts them. So identify, are they visual learners? And then we have another group of learners, and this is the learners that can concentrate for a very long time. And these are learners that learn easily through verbal or through oral teaching. These are the kind of learners that we had even in high school, when we were in high school. Like, there are people, once you teach them, it gets into their mind. Once a teacher teaches, that's enough. They don't need to go back and do revision and all that. Those are the type of learners that I'm talking about. Learners that can just sit and listen without any interference. And these are the learners that can concentrate even up to 30 minutes, 41 hour. And that is enough. They don't need anything. And then finally, we have those learners, and this is the most interesting group according to me. These are learners that when you teach them, they need to read and to write at the same time. And this is the way that they can only understand. And because it is the only way that they can understand, then why is it that we can't use it to support them? Because they need to be supported. If they can't write, then the information that is being passed to them cannot stick in their mind. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying that it is good to understand that each learner has different learning abilities. They have a different concentration span, and they have a different way of getting the intended message. This is what I'm calling the mode of learning. So once you identify that, you come up with a clear structure that is going to help or to cater for every individual. And I think to some extent that is where we are heading to in Kenya. We have CBC, and CBC to some extent it is trying to incorporate differentiated instruction so that it can cater for the need of all learners in the classroom. And if you just try and come up with a way of supporting your child, then you're going to realize that your child is going to improve. Just identify, because there's nobody who is dumb. There's nobody who can't pass an exam. There's nobody who cannot be better, because we are not limited. It is only that we don't know how best to support different learners in a classroom. So I hope you find this video interesting. So if it is interesting, please let me know. Share your comment in the comment section. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. So thank you for your time, and goodbye.